Hi everyone, my name is Anna Engelhardt and I'm very happy to welcome you to our Digital Workers Conference. This conference is organized by the eeefff group, Dina Zhuk and Nikolay Spesivtsev, Sara Culmann. So the Digital Workers Conference is our joint program as participants of the first season of the Grant Garage program, and we designed this conference to try to understand what the digital is and to try to find what people who work with digital production have in common. Our conference will take place over 3 days, today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. On Saturday, we'll have anti-job collective joining us and the Moscow Taxi Drivers Union and representatives of the team for researching precarious employment will discuss the interests of the workers for different digital platforms like Yandex or Uber. Also, we will discuss the improvement of the labor conditions when your boss is the algorithm. On the tomorrow, the eeefff group will moderate the talk. On the third day of the conference, Alona Danilova will take over. Danila Pli, system architect, and Elena Gennadievna, educator and designer, will talk about the nature of web development and digital design. Sara Culmann will be the moderator on Sunday. I'm also very happy to introduce the interpreters who will stay with us for the 3 days, Nadezhda Lebedeva and Polina Minor. Today, we will talk to female bloggers from TikTok, from YouTube. The first speaker is Lola Nordic. Lola is eco-feminist, artist, DJ. She has her own blog on Instagram. She's a writer. She writes about LGBT plus and the rights of women. She explores the topics of ethics, horizontality, and safe spaces. As an artist and as an art activist, she works with texts, performances, and other media. Nikki Woodward is also joining us. She's an illustrator, a femme activist, and author of a YouTube blog. She helps NGOs and other initiatives with PR expertise. Lisa Klintsova is also with us today. TikTok and Instagram blogger, radical feminist. Elisa broadcasts about politics, feminism. She's an educator too. Alisa studies at the High School of Economics at the Politology Department. Elizaveta Maximovna will also join us today, who runs her own blog under the Barish nickname. Lilia Zemnukova will be commenting on our discussions. She is a sociologist. She works at the European University in St. Petersburg. She does social research of IT communities. She's going to leave comments on our YouTube stream. You're welcome to read her comments and to answer her. These comments will also be translated into English for the English version of the broadcast. I will be with you today too, Anna Engelhardt. I'm a media artist and a researcher. And for the Garage program, I researched the blue checks of verification, which we all know as active users of social media. My research is available at machinic.info, which I will share more details about a bit later. Today's broadcast will begin with my intervention, with my kind of introduction. In the second part of my introduction, I will talk about the platform and about my research, which I'm doing. And I will also show how it relates to the speakers I invited today as experts. We'll have around 15 minutes to speak, and we'll switch to a discussion. And after that, we will open the floor For the listeners of our stream, you're welcome to ask your questions in the comments section, and I will let you know when we are going to switch to the Q&A session. So I think it will take around 30 minutes of our stream at the end. Before I switch to the project, I wanted to express my gratitude to my sister who helped me research the ecology of TikTok. She was an immense help for me. Thank you very much. Okay, a couple of words about my project now. Actually, I think all of you know what are verification checks. So it was interesting for me to choose this blue sign, this blue check, as the object of my research. So imagine that you have this huge object in the room where you spend most of your time every day. It's very important for most of the people. And this check says this is absolute truth. It's nothing but the truth. And it causes a lot of questions. For me, as a researcher, these are very artificial projects. It's like they're given to us the way they are, and you don't need to want to question anything there, or we can imagine it in a different way. So let's take the social media where I spend a lot of time. We have a media object that just exists by itself. And let's imagine we want to ask it a question, where it came from, what does it do there, why we need it, we as users. And here is how we can approach this issue. If this object found itself in this space, it is serving some goal, so we can ask the question to this object or why it is there, because it's not something given to us by God. It was designed by developers. So why do we need it? I suggest us to take a look at these verification checks as antennae. So it is something that can receive signals and emit signals. It's a signal emitted which says, this is the truth. And it also accepts signals from the users and decides which users are going to get this check and under what conditions it can be denied. And nobody knows for sure how it happens. If you go into the policies of all social media, you will see how closed this process is. Many interviews, people who take part in discussions on darknet say that many celebrities get this check exactly from from the darknet. So what do we know about these aerials, these antennae? We know that it says what is told here in this account is true and is nothing but truth. But we know that it's part of campaign and it's part of advertising campaign, because social media are in essence advertising campaign. Most of their profit comes from advertising. We can try to take a look at it as the advertising campaign. And the goal of any campaign is to maximize profit. So the question is, why does an advertising company need this thing that says the truth? And we all know that advertising deceives us once in a while. The next question would be to try to understand what is understood here by truth. To understand that, we can take a look at who connects to these aerials, to these antennae. And if we take a look at who has this antennae, this is true. This is the truth. We will see that these houses are different from others because they have lots of subscribers. So they must have a lot of subscribers, a lot of comments, a lot of activities. It has to be a famous business. And this category, many, cannot be quantified. Very often, it is impossible to apply for this blue check. So it is given to you by someone from above. And we can also see that this category of many has been changing with time. If we look at the social media policies, earlier, many subscribers was around 1 million subscribers. As soon as the advertising market became interested in micro influencers, these are the people who have a few dozens of thousands of subscribers, but they actually bring more profit to advertisers. And then all of a sudden, social media became interested in micro influencers and they started to grant these verification checks to micro influencers. So one could say that this check of verification is a kind of award for one's um, reputational capital, social capital. It is something, it's a badge that differentiates you and shows that you have enough social capital for advertising campaigns to be interested in you. All of these platforms have a lot of users. Let's try to think how many users Facebook has now. The next question would be how can we calculate the social capital, this reputational capital for every single user? This calculation is based on the number of comments, number of reposts, number of subscribers. And on diagrams online, it is depicted as clouds. The more capital you have, the bigger you are on the diagram and the more interesting you are for advertisers. But you also actively influence the people that you quantify as soon as you apply metrics. So, for example, you say you need to have so many subscribers to get this check. You also influence the behavior of these people by doing that. And these users start to get fake likes, fake reposts, fake activity. And Emily Rosemont called this reputation wars. I will go back to this term a bit later. So, what can be said about this antennae? We can say that it gives a lot of power. So, the symbol gives huge power in broadcasting messages. And although some boomers claim that internet is a huge field, but actually internet is not a huge field, it's a huge number of small information bubbles. And I believe many of you are familiar with the term information bubbles. Very often, actually, there are many internets that you will never come across. And these internets exist in parallel universes, and they do not come together in the World Wide Web or into the internet. So the result is that we have these bubbles that come together into foam. So this check, this verification check, is a kind of universal currency which will be valued in any information bubble. So if you leave your bubble and enter another bubble, then this check will also be valuable there. It will be of value. So verification enables one to broadcast one's messages. Although subscribers on one blogger may not know about other bloggers, if these bloggers have verification checks, then they are on one and the same line or on one and the same level of hierarchy on the social media, on the same level of importance. So this verification checks, it awards users and it allows the users to go through these online bubbles more easily. How can we use these antennae, these verification checks for practical purposes? How can we use them for cyber war? And by cyber war, I understand not just attacks of bots on NGOs or any other actions like that, but also attempts of the feminists to bear some of the brands responsible or any other online actions that have a systematic character. One of the examples of these actions is project done by Nikki Woodward when she called upon her subscribers to leave messages on social media of Delivery Club who refused to pay their employees. In a course of few days, Delivery Club changed their position and started the negotiations. And this brings us back to the discussion of reputation wars. So we can think about how this system of award and punishment can be used by us, common users and bloggers, to improve the conditions of our existence. And as Nika did, they can either be used on external platforms or they can be used by bloggers for them to come together into a union or any other organization that would improve their work conditions. So our today's panel sets the goal of trying to think of systemic glitches that need to be fixed by platforms and possible strategies of solidarity that we could use. One of the problems that I highlighted for myself and that I tried to solve in my project is the impossibility to be a blogger to speak publicly without disclosing one's identity, without showing one's face. And for that, I created face filters that you can also download if you follow the link. And using them, you can take part in online streams or Zoom conferences and stay anonymous. So this is it for my project. Now, I would like to pass the mic to Lola Nordic for her to share her work. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Lola Nordic. I'm an eco-feminist activist, an artist, and a blogger too. Thank you very much, Anna, for such an interesting introduction. It was exciting to listen to, and I already managed to, yeah, I got some insights from your introduction. Thank you very much. As for me, I have never had this verification check, although I tried to apply for it on Instagram once I had 10,000 subscribers, but then for some reason I was denied the offer. And I was told that the bloggers like me cannot get this verification check because there are a lot of fake blogs. But actually, I found out that there are no more Lola Nordic on the search. Anyway, I thought that, well, maybe I'm easy to find and I don't need this check, right? Because if people Google me, if they look for me, they will see my account, which is the only one on Instagram. So maybe it's just that I don't get the check. As for my activity, I'm active on Instagram, but not only there. I design my own digital content. I publish it on other social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and on TikTok too. But depending on the platform I publish my content on, I change the style of self representation, so to speak. For example, I use Facebook when I need to reach a huge number of high status adult, in inverted commas, people. I have a lot of Facebook friends who are intellectuals, who are journalists, and if I need to address this audience, I will write on Facebook in a different language. As for Instagram, it's less serious for me. And I write narrower posts there. Mostly I write about feminism, about solidarity, equality, and I also publish my artistic activity there. So at first, I wanted it to be cool, in inverted commas, again, Instagram, and I wanted it to be beautiful. I wanted to create a beautiful picture. And I thought that this beautiful picture will help me reach these audiences who signed up for me because they saw the beautiful images, but they will also consume my content, which is about activism and feminism. So that was the trick I was planning to play. But then I saw that once you start publishing content about feminism for these audiences, they just unsubscribe. At first, on my Instagram, I had non-political content, beautiful images, and there the statistics was 60% men subscribers and 40% women subscribers. Now it's 80% women subscribers. And the more active I am as an activist, the more women subscribe for me and the more men unsubscribe. But this seems to be a side effect of feminism activism, unfortunately. As for Twitter, there I'm a hooligan, really. So I allow myself to write something sharp there. So I use the Twitter to, if something scandalous happens, or there is a public conflict and you want to do something, to say something sharp, then I use Twitter. Recently, I started to publish content on TikTok too, because over the past year, I got disillusioned in Instagram as a platform.
Вообще чего-либо, потому что, мне кажется, алгоритмы Инстаграм стали просто абсолютно людоедскими за последние пару лет. И мне кажется, степень их людоедскости растет в какой-то геометрической прогрессии. И если раньше мы уже наблюдали про то, как, да, там несправедливо принимаются
I would
решения.
call them even cannibalic, these strategies. So it concerns hate speech towards vulnerable groups, despite many complaints. Sometimes these posts are never deleted. When I say hate speech, I mean homophobia, sexism, hate towards women, migrants, and other vulnerable social groups. But at the same time, the content that got banned was from, for example, body positive activists who just published their own photos that didn't violate any rights. So there was, or any rules. For example, there was no naked body, no naked breasts, which seems to be the most terrible thing to show on Instagram. You will be deleted instantly. But for some reason, women with conventional appearance can publish their photos in swimming suits and nothing will happen, while body positive activists may be banned or may be warned after similar posts. These issues now are getting worse and worse, and the situation with the views is terrible. All bloggers I talk to say that their reach now has dramatically decreased. And I think it's true for me. The outreach now is more than it used to be when I just started my Instagram. And when I look through my feed, I see the content that I don't really want to see. And earlier, the representative said that you can just like different accounts and we will adapt the feed for your preferences. Now I can say for sure that it doesn't work. I have to visit the pages I'm interested in on purpose. I have to open them. Although I follow everything they do, I like them. They are not shown in my feed. So this problem of shadow ban is quite mysterious. I don't know if it's myth or reality. Many people say that it is non-existent. Many people say that it does exist. I used to think that it didn't exist. Now I believe in it what I because I can see that the reach is diminishing. I can see that the content that I'm interested in becomes invisible for me, and my content becomes invisible for my audiences. And these changes in numbers are dramatic, really. And I realized that I can't bear it anymore. And I decided that I'm going to shift to TikTok for my personal blog because TikTok does not have this issue with the outreach, and it's quite easy to get new audiences there. It's quite easy to reach broader audiences. So far, the feed is working fine. What I'm anxious about is that as far as I know, we still don't really know who owns TikTok. And I'm quite anxious about that as a political activist. Because, of course, I'm quite worried that maybe we'll find out that Putin owns TikTok, or I don't know, the world government, and we'll be deceived again and we'll find ourselves in the shadow bans. So I think for people who make political content who work with the topic of discrimination really need this feeling of safety on social media, and safety not only against persecution, not only against stalking or hate speech, but we also need to see transparency in how these social media are built. We need to understand who owns social media, what their policy is, how it works. And for now, I believe that Instagram and TikTok are both not non-transparent, and I think it's a problem. This is it for me, to put it in a nutshell. Could we wait for a couple of minutes for the Garage Tech team? The thing is that the English simultaneous interpretation um, is now broadcast for Russian audiences, and unfortunately, our listeners, especially if they're not very comfortable with English, so they cannot really follow us. Is it okay if we wait? The Garage Tech team will let us know when they fix it. Okay, I'm not sure. I think we can play a game. Like, is there any shadow ban online? In TikTok, it exists for sure. Okay, it's all fixed. I see it in the comments on YouTube, so everything is smooth and running, right? It's all working. Please let me know. Because for some reason, somebody in the comment section sent a sad emoticon, and I'm not sure what it means. I can't listen to the broadcast right now. Okay, the Russian broadcast is working fine, so Lisa, I'm passing the mic over to you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for having me here, Lola. It was very interesting to listen to you, and I wanted to begin with the topic of safety too, because at first I had my blog on Instagram. It was about body positivity, but then I understood that I wasn't really true to myself. So I tried to fake it until I made it. I was trying to convince myself it was true. I was trying to make myself love myself and my body, but I failed, so I decided to turn to different kinds of content, to the content that I was interested in back then. I was interested in politics and feminism, first of all. My friend started using TikTok as a platform, as a blogger, and his audience started to grow really fast. A lot of new subscribers joined him, and I was curious about how it worked, and I looked through recommendations on TikTok, and I saw that it was so empty, it was so unprofessional. There were so many bloggers who didn't know anything about what they were talking about. They didn't know anything and they were running broadcasts. And I realized it was my chance. It was my chance to do something about it. And as a kind of a noble knight, I decided to fill this gap. One of my first videos was about feminism and what it gave contemporary women, and that it is a bit stupid to be against feminism now because we are using the achievements of this movement, all of us. And the second video, if I remember right, were about amendments to the constitution because people did not understand at all what amendments they were voting for, against, or why they needed to go and vote, because there was a lot of information about boycotting the vote. Since I studied to be a politologist and I really loved that topic, I decided to analyze it academically. I made a video about it and it was watched a lot. Followers started to subscribe for me, and I realized that TikTok was the platform that I wanted to work for, where I wanted to make my content, where I wanted to post my videos. Because TikTok works the way the newsfeed used to work on Instagram before. You are shown the content that you like, and the content that I see on TikTok is basically what I'm interested in. I was interested in feminism and politics, and I saw a lot of similar content on my news feed, and I decided to add my videos to this bulk of information because a lot of content was unprofessional, was shallow, was misleading. Now I have around 280 subscribers on TikTok, and I have made a pause because of the burnout. The burnout is quite natural. When you do lots of things, when you work a lot, you burn out. And mostly you burn out when you don't get the results that you expect. When you write scripts, when you edit videos, when you write posts, when you write educational posts, and then algorithms just ignore you. This kills any motivation to do anything else. But I believe that now I will be back soon and I will keep making content. I will keep recording videos. What I like on TikTok is that people gather in communities. So those who follow content about feminism are those who basically share this worldview. So the audience you reach via TikTok are those who are interested in this topic, and what you have is the sense of a community where people are understanding, where people are supportive, and then it's quite difficult to go back to the real world and to face the reality where people actually do not agree with you, where people divide others because of some characteristics. And at first, I felt really safe on TikTok, but then I was banned. I was banned because of the constitution. It was not so much about feminism, mostly about politics. And people in the comments like to make jokes like, okay, the police is after you now. I mean, these are jokes, of course, but I understand that some of the activists are really persecuted by the police, and I was even morally ready for it. Once, a policeman rang about my door, and I thought it was it, but then it was just a false alarm that went off. But I like said goodbye to my life 1,000 times in that moment because such kind of content in Russia is unsafe for the author. I position myself now as a TikTok blogger because the main bulk of my content is broadcast on YouTube, on TikTok, sorry. I upload around 2 videos a day if I'm active. They can be about different topics: educational, feminism, politics, interesting facts, news, and other topics that I touch upon in my blog. Sometimes I translate English language videos or I give my opinion on certain events. Sometimes I just share useful information because again I think that there is a lot of rubbish online. There is a lot of misinformation. For example, when the US elections were going on, people wrote quite seriously that if Biden wins, he will bomb Russia, will start the Third World War. No jokes here. People were quite serious about that. And I just can't tolerate it. When I scan through these posts, I was like, yeah, of course. Of course, this is what he wants. This is why he is running for the elections. And I made a video where I explained it all. I explained why it was wrong politically, why it was wrong economically, and this video gained 1.5 million views overnight, and then it was spread, it was shared everywhere on Contacti, everywhere, because people were like dead sure it was true. They were like, we need to get out of Russia because Biden is the new US president. So, like, the fact that Putin is their president does not really disturb them. So, I wanted to slap them in the face and say, shut up. So, that was the initial idea of my blog, really. I just wanted to give people an adequate source of information. It's not like I'm completely objective or I am the biggest authority on the matter, but I try to give independent comments on the news I see, and I add comments from the point of view of politology or political sciences. So I try to take a more academic approach. I want to foster independent thinking, critical thinking in people. And actually notice that my input does matter, my opinion does matter because people write to me, Alisa, thank you very much. Thanks to you, I understood that the Russian legislation is flawed, or I understood what feminism is, some basic things, and people PM me about that, and I'm so happy that my creativity, that my what I do can really help people. But sometimes they write to me like, Alisa, please help me write my research paper on feminism.
Or like I've got this argument with an anti-feminist to help me like develop my position, and well, that's when I ignore these sort of requests because well, I didn't set up my blog to help random people out there, like to maintain these arguments, random arguments online. But I'm glad that I'm becoming a bit of an authority for some people, etc. I also have an Instagram blog. I'm not very active there. The last two posts I had were political. One was about like lack of law in Russia and like meetings, demonstrations. I make them not just like information with my audience. That's why they're pretty rare. My last post was about 2 months ago. There's a lot of free posts. It's been like downloaded a lot, and these are the posts that I want to make. Not too often, but I want to actually make them matter. I want people to share these posts. I want them to be a source of something important, not just like something out there every day just for the sake of it, for being active. So that's my approach. I post about like my personal life and my opinions on things that happen around, like news. It's a combination of myself and my viewpoints. I very often get like feedback that people like my content, they like the way I go about keeping my blog. Another point I wanted to add, a blog as an addition of my life. It's not the most important thing in my life. It's just there's like a supplement as an add-on. I would probably go completely mental if I was trying to record every single event in my life. Is if I was trying to make a video even when I don't want to. If I was forcing myself to be active. So I'm trying to keep the balance. I'm not forcing myself to do anything when I don't feel like it. Plus, I've got work that's directly related to TikTok and Instagram. I I keep an account for exam preparations like GCSE Russian equivalent. This is something I'm really passionate about. I know the trends. I know what's happening online at the moment. I know what to do to make sure it's interesting. And I guess to me, it's more of a hobby than a job. So this is something I really love to do, and I'm really happy that at some point in my life I started using TikTok. I started to make the videos. About three people helped me make the choice. Well, my group mate that I already mentioned, who subsequently turned out to be a sexist. Already, he was initially making videos about feminism, and it's like it's such a weird story. It's like all pro feminists. They always turn out to be like these lovely blokes that hit their girlfriends and stuff, like abusers. I think there's like tons of them out there. I haven't seen a single adequate feminist, as they say. I would like to thank him, although he did turn out to be a complete jerk. Thank you so much for like sharing your experience. And I saw what he was doing. I thought like, wow, that was awesome. I also want to thank my girlfriend. She said like, yeah, start doing it. Don't miss the moment. It'll be too late. And uh, my BFF, I saw her TikTok and I'm like, I'm going to steal an idea from her for one of the videos. I did steal one of her ideas and I got more views than she did. So, Irina, there you go. Thank you for inviting me today. Thank you for this amazing talk. And I'll be glad to answer questions at the end, should there be any. Anna, thank you so much. Alisa. At this point, I'm going to pass the floor to Nikki. Nikki Woodward, could you talk about what you do? Nikki, hi, can you hear me? Okay, hi everybody. My name is Nikki Woodward. I'm an leftist feminist. You know the Mixel Pixel, my YouTube channel, and I guess my comic strips, like on feminism, about Persia. I'm going to try to tell you, like, in the context of what I do. I'll start with like what else started with and how it works now. It all started with when I was 16. I had a regular text blog at the Notasty platform. We had some. I would publish my drawings and my texts, and sometimes some funny videos about how I'm lip syncing through YouTube, like you'll see in TikTok. And then my audience would expand gradually. I'd get more and more subscribers, and the more I would get subscribers, the more I started to think about like using my platform to spread information, like important information, to share my vision and I was more and more interested in feminism at that point, and I was graduating from the history department of the High School of Economics, and I would gradually start posting more and more videos on my channel in terms of intersectionality, body positive, feminism, why not all men, like how that whole thing works. And at the same time, I started to draw my strips about feminism because this was something I was really into.
Фестивалях, на которых я продавала эти зины свои и комиксы.
I would sell my comic strips at various festivals and drawings and cards and stickers, lots of stuff I was making. Initially, I was combining comic strips and what I was doing for my channel with office work. I was working in advertising. And back in 2017, when I started to get the first companies that would reach out to me to post ads in my blog, I started to make just as much as I was doing for my office job, or a bit less. And I decided that I can try leaving the office job and survive on this. I gave it a shot. I left the office, and at the same time, I posted the video on my channel that I'm opening a site that um, you could sign up if you support what I do. You could sponsor me on a monthly basis, like crowdfund what I do essentially. And very quickly, over the course of a few months, I got about $500. At this point, I've got about $650. There's some fluctuations, and some people sometimes I'd have it up to 700, like you're during the super awesome times. Now it's at the level of about $650. So starting from 2017, been working as a blogger and an activist, make money through crowdfunding at Patreon. I make money from ad integrations on my channel and my Instagram account. Sometimes I have some freelance jobs when I do illustrations or drawings. Well, usually I do that as a volunteer, like Say No to Violence, like various shelters. Sometimes they can pay me a small fee, but well, sometimes they can, but more often than not, it's all volunteer based. It's free, pro bono. So what else do I do for work? I guess I've covered everything. Yes, that's all. Okay, maybe I'm forgetting something. They would say that YouTubers um, well, a video could have a million views, and I would get like peanuts for it. So it's just okay. Oh, when I make posts to Instagram or I make drawings reflecting on certain situations, it's not complete. It's not systematized. I don't have any content plan or anything like that. And on the one hand, that's great because if I'm doing something, that means I'm really passionate about it right now in the moment. But it's not good in terms of planning my work and having this plan for my income, for my like security, this feeling of financial stability, predictability in life. So that's something I'm missing. And I have to face all of the challenges and complications that any freelancer is facing when you don't know what's in store for you going forward. And every time you make some money, you think it's like for the last time. You're never sure that you can make any more money in the future. And because I'm an activist, I have to deal with policing of how I make money. Where money's coming from, what companies am I promoting, how it ties into my position I have to be really strict when I choose these companies that place ads, and I have to like look for compromises. I have to like compromise things I believe in sometimes, my strategies. I need to make a choice every time on a case by case basis to make the money, and so I've got things I believe in. I've got my audience. I've got my family that I have to support. I've got myself. I've got this uncertainty in terms of my future, and it's irregular and it's unplanned. And this is something I have to live with. And on top of all of this, well, the key challenges that I have to face, I always have to do with this bullying. It's always permanently there, and I perceive it as this one huge bullying like stream. I could like fragment it. There would be like Navalny's virtual subscribers, etc. And they're like, this is one huge sort of wave of bullying, and it creates a lot of like background noise on top of this financial instability and unpredictability in my life. So the political situation, I don't need to explain that. So all these reposts and persecution related to that. Leading up to 2020, I was alone in all of this. I was just like in my bed in my like a pajamas or. And this would really complicate things in a way because it was hard for me to like draw the line between work and like non-work because when you're activist, so when you're a blogger, and when you're blogging, you talk about your private life as well. So there's like a lot of interpenetration of all of these topics, and it's really hard to sort of keep a balance, this work-life balance, to have a certain like work routine, to draw the line, to analyze your work critically, because you don't know whether it's your work that's been criticized or you personally being criticized. It could be like just harassment and hates and something that you need to filter out, and it's not really criticism anymore, not constructive. You need to process this type of info differently. In 2020, and I got an assistant. I met her at one of the projects when I was working as a freelancer for the Schleshka, the shelter, and my assistant now helps me process all of the incoming requests, like email requests. We read everything that comes to me like together, whether it's work related or non-work related. So we think about how to respond together. She's also in touch with all of the advertising, like departments, like people that want to place an ad in my Instagram account. And I pay her a basic salary. I pay her 20,000 rubles plus 10% from all of the commercials and Instagram. So she makes about 30 to 40,000 rubles per day. And I take this from Patreon. Like I've got $650 there. So 20,000 rubles I would take from there, about $260. And I've got another assistant now who's helping me with my channel. And thanks to her, I've started to post videos like once every 2 weeks. So I have a plan, like 5 videos ahead I can plan. I have a scenario that I plan ahead of time, like not the night before to make a video the next day. And I pay her as well. I pay her 35,000 rubles, which is around $470, and plus 10% of the commercials. So she gets, what, about 40, 50, 60,000 rubles, so up to $800. So everything I get from crowdfunding, all of this is redirected to my assistants. I think that's the key info, which is this is the most relevant information for me, because I've always been on my own. I've always been working alone. I thought I'm alone in this. and I thought it's not okay to delegate, but it turned out that it was incredibly gratifying, and it's great both for my work and for my mental state. It's not silly. There's nothing wrong to hire people, to hire assistants, to pay them a decent salary, and you start to feel like, well, you're not alone. You're part of a team, and that also helps. It helps to sort of disseminate the feedback. I don't know how to word that. So, well, for instance, if something is like you're struggling with something, for instance, I made this video, mm, um, and it was really hard. And I thought it was because the three of us working on it was really uh, supporting me. It really helped me to like get back up because I had my two assistants back me. Sometimes I make a post or post a video which attracts a lot of hate, and it sort of sets me back for a few days, and it has an impact on all my agreements because I've got lots of like jobs that I have to do in parallel. Could be working on an audio book. I could be looking into how to support other activists. I could be consulting how to best make a text. I have a design for say no to violence, for instance. I'm thinking about what videos to make. Then I've got somebody talking to me about like ads, and I've got an e-store. I forgot to mention that I've got an e-store. So once a week I process orders. So I've got an e-store as well, and it's also complicated. And every sort of wave of hate sort of really puts me off. And I noticed that my assistants help me recover much faster. So I'm not out for like 2 weeks. I could be out for like 4 days instead. I'm not sure what else to say. If you have any further questions, I would happy. I love to talk about my work and my working process. Um, there was nobody to talk to when I was just starting out. No other bloggers. So I would be had to find like bits and pieces of information, but every time I found something, it was like a level up. That was last time it happened when the bloggers told me how much I should charge for ad integration at YouTube. Like it's equivalent in rubles to the amount of views, more or less. Anna, thank you so much, Nika. Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, everybody, for your speeches. That's incredibly interesting to get a sneak peek into your working process. And I think there's some things that we can find in common. It would be interesting to discuss with you. What do you think about vacations? You were talking about works, but what about holidays? If you don't post, your rating goes down, you get less views. Like ideally, in the world of rainbow unicorns, what would happen with your vacation? Alisa, well, I took everything. I took my microphone, I took my lights, I took everything to Turkey. And I was blogging for TikTok, and I was thinking, no way that I can't reduce my activity. And I would come home from the beach, my face would be like sunburned. I had salt in my hair, and then I would still would make a video, and I would get comments, "Oh no, your hair is dirty. Do something like wash your hair." I was like, "Oh, come on, guys, I'm doing my best." So if we're talking about an ideal world, like prepare some materials in advance and post it over the course of your time off, like your vacation, or like don't worry about it the way I'm doing now, for instance. So at some point, this sort of race for subscribers, something that, well, it became less relevant for me. I don't force myself anymore. Previously, when I was leaving, I would record a lot in advance to prepare some material. I don't do that anymore. Well, I can add. Well, I've got this problem that my blogs are not easy to monetize. Sometimes I would get some requests for ads, but I have to decline a lot of these because, well, it's important for me to promote stuff that I believe in, that I can stand behind, that I think are good, and that I would be okay to use myself, for instance. Plus, as Nika said, I also feel this pressure. Like if you're an activist, so like you'll be policed for any promote integration, particularly for your interaction with big corporations. If you position yourself as a leftist activist, as a political activist, it becomes a stigma. It's like a reason to ignite hate. So come on, you're against capitalism, you're against well, and then you've got levies, or you've got Nike, or you've got something else in your blog, and that of course creates certain challenges.
У меня есть еще такой, но не могу сказать, что прилетает много рекламы, но из того, что прилетает, я отказываюсь, наверное, просто от 95%. Поэтому рекламу очень редко можно увидеть у меня. Вот. А во-вторых, моя
So
основная
first of all, I say no to most of office, 95% of them. And as for my main job, besides activism, my main job basically brings me money, something to live on, because my activist does not bring me any money. I have Patreon too, but it does not make enough for a living. And my main work also is online. I write articles for independent publications, and this work is actually not very different from my activism, or sometimes I edit videos. And again, this work is just the same what I do for myself when I create artistic content or activist content. So the result is that there is no like gap between my activism, my blogging, and my job, because I can't turn off my computer for a few hours. I can't log out from social media. I'm always online. But quite recently, I reached an understanding that it's really important for rest to be part of one's schedule. This is something my psychotherapist explained to me, and it is especially important for those who do political activism, because, well, of course, rest is important for everyone, but in political activism, you get extra pressure, and rest has to be planned for sure. So in everyday life, in an everyday schedule, I must have some time off, some time for rest. And I have a huge problem with it because I want to do a lot activism wise, but I don't have enough time for it. So the result is that all my free time, which I could use for rest, I devote to activism. I can't say that I work 24/7, but this desire to try to do everything very often, it makes me work all the time. And sometimes I find myself procrastinating. So for a few hours, I don't really know what I do, and it's not really work and it's not really rest. So now my goal is to learn to rest.
есть страх, а если я вот не буду постить ничего
But
несколько
at the same time, I'm afraid, like if I don't post anything for a few days, then my blog won't evolve, my subscribers won't see me. When I go back, I will fade into shadow ban. And it's not really clear how to deal with the situation. I mean, I do see the ways out, but it's not as simple as just you have to have a day off. No, the pressure is high, the load is high, and you need to take care of your own project. And unfortunately, it keeps you in tone. Over the 2 years, I had a vacation only once for 2 weeks. And out of these 2 weeks, I managed to spend only 1 week without the computer, without posts, without any activities. Because for the first week, although I was resolved not to work, everybody texted me, messaged me every day, because everybody around me thought that I had to be online all the time. I had to be available all the time. I had to answer messages. And I think that in contemporary world, it is a problem. People find themselves in this loop of eternal work, and they treat likewise other people. Like, you must find this 5 minutes, you must find this time. So we are racing. In Russia, there is another race because of the financial situation, and I'm sure that Nika has a lot to say about rest. Yeah, I wanted to say, Lola, it seems like you don't even like to rest. Well, I learned to rest over the past few years. I started to be able to take rest, but it was quite hard to achieve because it was quite unclear how social media work. So, for example, if I don't post anything for a week, will I disappear or not? What about my outreach? And this lack of clarity led me to burnout, to a really hot state, to a lot of anxiety, until I reached the edge of it. I felt really bad at that point, but when it happened, I had to stop. And here I think we have to discuss Instagram and YouTube separately. As for Instagram, it was the clarity was less. I still don't understand how it works. So it happened so that I didn't post anything and I went back, and there were just as many views, and then there were very few of them. Then again, a lot of them. Then again, very little. And I realized that it does not really depend on me taking my time off. So my attitude to Instagram is quite spiritual, maybe. The less I think about it, the less I care about the views, the more views I have. The less I stress that I need to post consistent content every day, the more feedback I get and the more views I get, the bigger my reach. So this is how I address Instagram. And I decided that if I don't feel like it, I just won't post at all. So I follow my own urge to be consistent and not my desire to say something just for the sake of saying it. As for YouTube, it's a completely different channel. As I understand it now, what YouTube values is regularity. You can post every 2 weeks or every week on the same day or once a month, but every month consistently. If you do that, it will be okay. So I know that. And for example, I prepare my content beforehand, before I go on vacation. But I don't really remember the last time I went on vacation. It's the pandemic time now, and I'm at home all the time. But the last time I went on vacation, that lasted a week, I just made content beforehand. I made a joke in the chat that it feels like we're discussing extreme sport and not rest. And it feels like you're risking your life when you don't work. And I think this is true. Yeah, this is how I feel it. This is what it feels like. So anxious. I used to cry for days because I didn't know how I can work on my depression and how can I deal with my dad. My dad was dying of cancer, and I had to think on how I could stay on social media. I was afraid of my reach to fall because I was afraid that then I wouldn't be able to make my living. Yes, and I also wanted to highlight the overall system. So we can either build the system of Uber, and we can try to get something from the platforms themselves. For, as you know, in the UK, Uber is considered an employer. They must give days off to their employees who must pay enough salary. I think your work is not that different from taxi drivers, right? You don't get any salary. This is why you can't go on vacation, because you're afraid of losing money. But there is another option. You make culture, you produce cultural content, and the question is, where are our cultural institutions? Why don't museums invite you into their spaces? Why don't educational projects invite bloggers and pay them for their speeches, for the lectures? And I wanted to ask what do you think about that? Sorry, there is something wrong with your sound. Yeah, voice is not distorted now. The distortion disappeared. I can actually speak for institutions. They invite me once in a while, but I think that these invitations are not enough for all bloggers, you know. So I think it doesn't happen enough if we take into account the number of bloggers in the country. And another thing, if you speak on political topics, it can also limit your range of expression, because some people may think that you are too political. And it's quite hard to say what is political enough and what is political, because feminism sometimes is considered to be a political movement, even a radical movement. And I had such an experience. For example, quite recently, a journal I collaborated with, I won't give you the name, told me that they didn't want to collaborate with me anymore because I posted too much information about January and February demonstrations, and I took part in them. And my home was searched, and I posted all about it. And I think bloggers who work with the topics of social justice can face it, really. So it's hard for them to find the way to make money. And blogging can also influence your main job too. At some point, your employers may start to censor you. They may tell you, don't post anything like this. I wanted to add something to this. I had integration in one video, and in this video, I drew my dreams. It was super hardcore. So, like, I could be a vampire, I could fly. And one of the dreams was for people to be able to make sex without any contagious diseases, and for people to be able to make abortions in one click without any consequences to the mental and physical condition. And because of that, the advertisers asked me to remove them from this video because of abortions. And they asked me to add their title to another video. I was so surprised when I heard that, when I read that. And some of the employers say that they have a list of banned topics like LGBT, politics, abortions. They say, we love you, we love what you do, but these topics are banned. And there are other employers or other contractors who say, we don't have any bans, talk about anything you want. I recently was offered a kind of an advertising, a commercial project, and I was invited as an activist to talk about the women's rights. But they said, please don't talk too much about feminism. And then I thought that was so curious. That was a campaign that supported women, like women can do anything, but at the same time, you couldn't really speak about feminism. I agreed to take part in that project. I decided for myself that anyway, I was going to talk about feminism. I mean, if they don't pay, it's okay. I just wanted to talk about what I want to talk to and then let it be. But in the end, everything was published.
Так что это была маленькая победа. Ну, конечно, это супер редкий случай. Обычно тебя могут просто зарубить.
But this is a really rare case. Very often you will be just banned. I had another case. Sometimes a client may say, like, you're a feminist. We are also pro-feminist, but we don't want radical feminism as your tone of voice. They say, we don't want any, sharp edges.
Аня сказала про Uber, то, что платформа как бы платит. Мне
Anya
кажется,
also spoke about Uber, about the platforms paying. Now, I think in the US, there is a creators fund. They pay for the views, like 3 cents for every 1,000 views. That's not a lot, but it depends on the scale and on the number of subscriptions. For example, when I made a lot of videos, I could have around 15-20 million views per month. So that would be around 40-60,000 rubles. That's not a lot at all, but that's okay, especially for something that I like doing, that I'm going to do no matter what. But of course, there is nothing like this in Russia. I think it exists only in the US, and I'm not sure it is going to appear in Russia, but it would be cool to have something like this in every country. As for our work, basically we work for YouTube, we work for Instagram, we create content for their platforms, and of course it would be great to get some remuneration for them. I completely agree with you. I don't really understand why social media make billions of dollars on us from advertisers. I mean, not our integrations, but their advertising contracts. So they earn lots of money, but they don't give any percentage to us, although we bring them this audience. I mean, why do we need to reinvent the wheel? Why do we need to think about how we can monetize, how we exploit it? So it's like we are employed, we go to work, we make something for them. So this sounds like bullshit to me.
да, это какой-то техно-вайб.
Some space sounds, techno vibe.
Как будто старый москвич заводится.
Аня, может быть,
Like an old car trying to start the engine. Anya, maybe you could also message us what question you're going to ask now. Please use the chat. Please discuss TikTokers Union, like TikTok House. I don't know anything about it. Me neither. Anya writes, you don't know anything about it because it's non-existent. Okay. Well, I don't know what to say. I'm not sure how we can organize it even. I mean, I would be happy to. I think a trade union would be great, would work great for us. Is it to protect our rights, for us to be paid? Yes, for us to be able to unite our efforts and to have some leverage to be able to influence the social platforms themselves. I mean, if social media ban us, if they delete our posts, if something is not transparent, I mean, maybe we could just unite our efforts. If we threaten them that we are going to leave, by the way, I'm not even sure how we could leverage the situation. I mean, what arguments could we use, even in conversations with Instagram? Audience, first of all, people who come on Instagram or any other social media, they come there for content, first of all. And if authors
Ну
Больше
и
ничего
никто
не
and
не
будет.
знает.
bloggers
Другие сразу же придут на
say that they're going to leave, well, nothing is going to change because others will come in their place. So I'm not sure what we could do here. The only thing that comes to my mind is to unite
press.
efforts with journalists. What social media doesn't like is bad press. So they don't like to see negative articles about themselves in big deal magazines. So bloggers may have a much bigger audience than, for example, Washington Post, but still, for some reason, they take media, newspapers much more seriously because maybe there is much more reaction after publications on media rather than on social media. So maybe, yeah, we could work here with journalists.
Когда-либо связываться
Have you ever tried to connect with those who support the infrastructure of TikTok to write? Have you ever written complaints? Have you ever talked to the people who construct, who design TikTok's infrastructure? I think the only way to connect these people is when your video is banned. You can somehow pause this decision and text your question about why this video was banned. So this is the only way of interaction that I see. Quite often my videos are banned and I send these questions and they either return the videos or they don't. Sometimes they ban accounts for a week or forever and you can't even contact them and ask why. As far as I know, very often people write
Вот связями с
to some people who work with those who deal with the apps for them to relieve the blocking to unblock the profiles. It's quite hard to reach them, frankly.
Я вижу, как очень много людей делают посты типа с
Yeah, I
призывами.
can see a lot of people writing posts with requests to unblock certain users, but I'm not sure what works. I mean, these messages or posts, or just the fact that some Instagram employee saw this case independently and decided to solve it somehow, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's at stake there. Another thing we have discussed it actually today, this lack of transparency, lack of clarity, lack of knowledge. And Lola will confirm that once we had a case, a guy introduced himself as an employee of Instagram and Facebook. He started interacting with bloggers, Sasha Midroshina, me, Lola, and some others. So he actually contacted a huge number of bloggers. And he explained to us how Instagram worked, how we had to do something, help to unblock certain posts. Lola, maybe you could continue the story. Yeah, I think this story is worth a Netflix film or a series. Because that was a fraud of such a high level. He worked not only with bloggers but also with celebrities. He had a huge number of identities. It was a year ago, right?
Мне кажется,
Но
2.
это и продолжалось. Да, но это в итоге сейчас всплыло недавно опять снова в Клабхаусе, кстати, эта персона
On
снова
Clubhouse, by the way, this persona appeared again. And by the way, I wanted to talk about Clubhouse because this is a new social media unexplored yet. I got into it and I wanted to share the story of partisaning on Clubhouse, but let's do it later. So nobody knows anything, and anyone who wants to make a fraud just using false fake documents, using fake IDs, presents himself as a manager of Instagram or any other social media. And he was quite artful at that. He even helped us relieve some bans. He was quite talented in what he did. Nika, for example, then was expecting the check, the verification check, and she contacted that persona.
Эта персона, они сказали мне, что они
Yes, and that persona said that he talked to his manager from Facebook, from Instagram, and they told her about me, and then they decided to make me a gift for my birthday, this kind of check. But unfortunately, they were a bit late, but still, this is a gift for my birthday. Yes, my manager was so impressed with what you do, with your activism. We like you all here in the office. Thank you for what you do. And we all believed him.
То есть насколько плохо организована работа в этих
And on the other hand, we thought like these tech companies, how badly their work is organized if these questions have to be solved like this. If you have to make such a hassle, I mean, some employers of Instagram have to come into touch with bloggers, have to explain how to survive on this platform, how the verification works, how to promote themselves on the platform. I don't remember the details already. We discussed it, I remember. We thought it was so unimpressive. I mean, if everything is organized so poorly, what can we expect from these companies? Like, this is a company of tech pros, and we have to explain to them the difference between a post about experienced violence and slander. And you remember maybe it was about Marat Safin and Andrei Petrov. That guy, that persona also said something about it, like Instagram is against Marat Safin's posts. Yeah, it was a very professional guy behind all of that scheme. But if you take a look at it from another perspective, yes, he was a swindler. He was a fraud. He introduced himself as an Instagram employee, and he worked not only with bloggers who have 20,000 subscribers. He managed to get around big organizations. He managed to work with celebrities and so on and so forth. And when it was clear that that guy had a number of bad actions, so to speak, so when we realized that he cheated, it was a huge problem to connect with Instagram and to make them do something about it. Oh yeah, we were like face to face with him. It was impossible to get through to the support. Yes, so there is a guy who who cheats international stars. There was a huge spectrum of people, and we can't do anything about him. And we do have a huge number of people we know who have connections, who don't have connections, and who are trying to reach Instagram to say that it's a fraud. So we tried to make them do something, but it was terrible. And for me, it was another bright example of how disinterested this company is in the safety of users, even of the users that bring them millions of views.
Помогает этому приложению развиваться. Вот, это, конечно, было поразительно.
I helped the app develop. So that was really amazing, like astounding. When you said important, non-important users, I was like chuckling inside. Well, I was like 100 subscribers, so well, I think Instagram doesn't care about anybody. They just. I wanted to share this little story about Clubhouse, in the context of how you would get through to like social networks that you can never get through to. And I'm all for setting up trade unions or communities and through like making problems visible if there's any injustices in the policies of various platforms. I'm all for that. Clubhouse, so that boomed just recently and became popular in Russia. Well, right now there's lots of celebrities there. There's lots of top managers. There's lots of directors, CEOs, presidents of companies, popular people, celebrities and I'm a bit famous now in Clubhouse because I come there and I start like conflicts with media celebrities, high-profile men talking about feminism. With Telegram, well, we're not discussing Telegram because I don't think any of us are using it actively, right? So there's this huge problem because based on Telegram, there's lots of sexist publics, and one of the most popular publics is Poznikov's channel, who's the head of the so-called male state, a sexist group of people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Poznikov's channels is where you expose personal data of girls, of LGBT personas. There's lots of harassment, lots of bullying. Attacks against accounts are provoked when thousands of people come to you direct private messaging with threats and threats of violence and rape. Daria Sirenko recently had to face a SFM activist because her personal data was exposed in this channel, and she was persecuted. She was threatened, and it's been happening for ages at this point. So nobody's banning this channel on Telegram. And Pavel Durov is not responding to this at all. Despite all of the requests, the tags, everything that we're trying to do, nothing is ensuing. So I have this idea. I recently saw that Pavel Durov was in Clubhouse. And he comes there like once in a while to organize talks. So I've got this idea of a talk. I want to like let's have this guerrilla attack. Next time there's a talk planned in Clubhouse with Pavel Durov, I'm going to join the talk and I'm going to start bombarding him with these questions. It's a recently new social network based on this new sincerity, so to say, when you can talk to anybody, absolutely. People from different worlds can interact, and you can talk with I don't know, anybody, the director of everything in life, and being just perhaps like also nobody. And I found this way of reaching out to people, to getting this perhaps a chance to get answers to questions that I feel are important, or just to call them out. So, the heads of platforms with issues. Alisa, I think it's an awesome idea. As far as I remember, in Telegram recently, there was this Footage Club channel with advice in terms of how to best rape women, and it was like lots of absolute crap. And my subscribers, in the course of their own investigation, figured out that it was just somebody seeking attention. It was absolute fake. He deleted everything. He erased everything. As far as I remember, these channels were then started to get deleted by Telegram itself because there was lots of complaints flooding in. And I agree that we should reach out directly to the founders of these platforms. So, like, why don't they ban these channels? And then another question is like, well, we have this sort of censorship going. Then we have the opportunity to ban content that we don't like feminist channel could also get banned as a result. You could have some idiots complaining about it, and then you get banned as well. Or we have this reverse situation whereby everything is permitted, even disgusting content, which is like, so there's two sides to the story, and I'm not sure which one is better. Dina, thank you so much. Those that are following our stream had some questions, had some proposals on how to set up a trade union. We are going to be talking about trade unions tomorrow during the second day of the conference, so please tune in. Perhaps there'll be some interesting cases that we're going to discuss tomorrow that can be also used in TikTok. One of our users, Karike, is suggesting pressuring TikTok, like get a hold of it and collectively own it. Others are suggesting strikes, and Marie Lazarenko is asking, like, what if we ask subscribers to leave the network for a week? Lila was writing about platforms being responsible. For instance, if they are subject to local regulations and the European GDPR that can protect users. What do you think about methods used by workers, trade unions, and strikes? Could you conceive like a strike movement? Like you were talking about this creating a wall that you can't get through. On the one hand, on the other hand, you're very active users of TikTok and other platforms. Are there any levers of influence that the platforms are obviously not setting up, but you could be looking to create them? Nika, can I answer that? I think that strikes for social networks are not going to work too well because if you've got 500 people in a company and these 500 people go on strike, then the company will freeze and stop working. With social networks, if you've got 100 bloggers with a huge audience and they stop publishing their content, there'll be others. There'll be thousands and thousands of other bloggers that stay, and the numbers that we're dealing with, like there's always going to be somebody to replace you. There's so many people out there. You can never like block social networks by ignoring them, like threatening that I'll delete my Telegram account, so you'll delete the network for a week. I don't think that's going to work. I prefer proposals that have to do with ways of through perhaps other agents to try to impact the social networks. Like in Europe, there's just like you mentioned these mechanisms. I didn't get what you mentioned, but well, that's Alisa can. Alisa, well, I wanted to say that we need to go from the money side because all of the social networks essentially are evolving around money. Visa and MasterCard at some point said that we're not going to use Hub if you don't delete 80% of your content about rape. Pornhub realized that they're going to lose the money and people are not going to be able to pay for the content, and that they did that. Like Nika said, we should reach out through other regulating parties. I didn't get what you said about the European mechanisms, but they have certain regulations, they have certain rules, and that's the levers. That, like like the European Parliament, for instance, for users, something like that. We could elect users to the Parliament and give them a voice. That would be interesting. Nika, I think people that are trying to impact Telegram are thinking along the same lines, and there's a lot of negativity in the App Store. The App Store is a way to impact Telegram. They can just limit access to this app, and then they're done. And it's not working because there's so much negativity. There's a lot of Poznikov's channel problems being raised related to that, but Telegram is just ignoring them outright. So we need to think about what we can do, how we can go through media, so trade unions. Pornhub, that's a great example. Like you can reach out to intermediaries, companies that are integrated into the systems. Dina, okay, great. GDPR that Lily was talking about, this is General Data Protection Regulation, or like to protect personal data, which is enacted in the European Union since 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But it roots go back much further, 90s perhaps. This is an act to protect the rights to your own personal data on both sides. Okay, we've got more questions from the audience. Those that are watching our stream now, think about the questions that you might want to ask, and you can ask them in the chat. We've got a question from Karipa. How do you keep a work-life balance? Do you ever try to not respond to direct messages after a certain time when you go into rest time? Well, I guess the question was asked when you were talking about like relaxing on holidays. Maybe you want to add something to what's already been said. Nika, I had this experiment when I wouldn't respond to anything after 7 p.m. to do with work. So it's not just direct message requests, but nothing at all that has to do with work. And I would only respond to my friends and buddies and my mom. And that lasted for several months. And then I broke the rule. As a result, I've got this rule sort of stuck. After 9 or 10 p.m., I try not to respond to when we talk about direct messages in Instagram. I only respond to those like once a day max, or I don't do it. Previously, I would be there like days long trying to sort through all the messages, and then I realized that that's impossible. Right. So I also try not to respond over the weekend to anything like that. Well, sometimes during the day I work at my regular work, and in the evening and at night I have other activist projects that I have to sort. So going back to this work-life balance, when you never have time to stop and rest, the system that I've got, and it's bad. You obviously need to relax, never work through the nights. But if I know that I'm this work mode and I've finished my main core work, and then I'm working on my alternative projects. This is the time allocated, the slot for my alternative projects, and then I receive a message that's related to these. I would usually respond. If I need to respond to like my work people, then I spend the night to respond to everybody who reached out to me through the day, and then I set a timer. I don't want them to receive an answer before an acceptable time, before like 10 a.m. So that's my approach. Nika, I have a question. I have a question to you, Lola and Elisa, and Anna. I don't know, like everybody. I've noticed that requests that have to do with like non-activism, but with work, like draw something or like edit a video or something like that, they don't really disrupt as much as requests to participate in activism. Activism is usually something that's volunteer-based, and it does take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy because it's activism. So these like requests that go through all social networks all the time, and they sort of disrupt the routine much more than work requests, because it's like pro bono, because it's not paid, it's not analyzed and recorded as something that's paid. It's something else. It's like political engagement. And because we don't treat it as work, you sort of accumulate a lot of frustration and fatigue. At least I agree. Right. Like when I need to like spread a post, like share this, do this, sign a petition, do this, do that. And sometimes I just feel overwhelmed. There's so many requests, like make a video on this. It's like I'm going to drop everything and start doing that. And sometimes people really start pushing you. Why are you ignoring me? They'll say, like, come on, give me an answer, do it, make the video. And I'm usually shocked by this sort of pressure, because I don't get why they feel like they can make me do stuff. Some people think that if you're an activist, then you have to talk about everything they want you to talk about. And honestly speaking, sometimes I just don't have any energy left to cover some of the events that happen around, because I'm just morally struggling and I need to like switch off my phone. And I don't have like I can't even follow what's going around and commenting. That's hell to me. That's my personal hell. All of these meetings, I was in panic attacks when I would get videos about people being beaten up, bleeding, and when people would write to me like loads of crowds of them, like, you have to do it. It's your obligation. Why are you talking about it? Where is the video? Then, well, it's just something that I get really shocked by. Maybe you've come up against something like that. Well, yes, I will support you in this. And I think it's important to constantly remind the audience that activist efforts are efforts. It's like the job and work are slightly different for me, but it's still work. When we talk about work, we usually mean that it's like your office job or something where you go and you get your salary. But I prefer labor, I prefer work more as a concept. When you talk about work, it doesn't mean that you're getting paid for it. Well, in my perceptions. So I think activism is like labor. It's work, it's unpaid work, it's unpaid labor. It does consume a lot of your energy, it does consume a lot of your resources, and it does mm, create certain risks in terms of your mental state, in terms of, and I think activists and bloggers, there's this sort of consumers view towards them. People think that if you've selected this path, you have to uh, do stuff for everybody else. So if you've chose this path of feminist activism, it means that you have to repost all of the messages on domestic violence or on gender violence or anything and everything. But we have to remember that every day, on average, 135 women die as a result of domestic violence conflict across the globe. Following this logic, you just have to be reposting all day all of these injustices that take place in the world. That's not possible. On the other hand, I do have some compassion, empathy, understanding for people who want me to spread something and they feel bad that I'm not reposting something, because they don't have this understand. They don't know how activism works. They don't understand the scope of the injustice that happens in the world. How many um, info themes you get on a daily basis, and there's whenever I can, I just try to explain to people, or I can just write a message that you can copy paste. Like, hi, I've heard about this story, and when something happens, and there's a billion people that reach out to you with the same thing day after day. And I just respond that, yes, I know about this. If I have the possibility and the energy, I'll write about it. And if I don't write about it, it's not because I don't think it's important, but I don't have the resources, and I don't know. I'm in a state that I can't like go public, and people sometimes just don't get it. They feel like you owe them, and if you don't do it, you're a bad activism. But it's important to understand for yourself that, like, keep in mind that we don't have to. We're not like MPs or anything like that. We don't get like a salary for this. We don't have to report on what we do. We don't like. Nika, I think they don't understand how issues get resolved as well. A lot of people think that if you send something to an activism, it means you're part of the solution to the problem. And if you write a post about women, then you'll save somebody. Or it doesn't work like that. So there are systemic problems.
И конкретному человеку, например, нужна психологическая
There are
помощь.
individual problems, and people might need psychological help or legal help. And it has to be done directly, not just to post about it and spread information. Sometimes spreading information is required. Sometimes it doesn't really make any sense and it's not really helpful. When you understand that, and people that just reach out to you, they don't get it, it can be sometimes very frustrating. Alisa, there was a question in terms of what do you feel about men that talk about feminism? Previously, I would say, yeah, great, thank you so much, boys, because I thought that if men can explain it to other men, they will understand it better. Then I realized that, well, this is like male activism and pro-feminists. Are still in this patriarchal world. They still masculine like this. In my experience, they just steal information from femme activists, from their blogs on Instagram, from their TikToks. They just steal those things, and their videos get more views, and they get a wider outreach than the activists themselves. And a lot of anti-feminists say, well, look, why are they getting more views? Because they're more adequate than you are, like stupid feminists. And again, this is the bullshit that we have to be in, because men are perceived as people that are like more serious and more representative. Feminism should be something that's communicated by females to females, because we are the ones living with these issues. But if you're an adequate guy that isn't like suppressing feminism in any way, I'll never reach out to pro-feminists to make them shut up. But I don't trust them. I don't know why. I'm really skeptical towards them. That's the way it is. Nika, people that publicly support feminism, that's one thing to me, and men that build their whole media presence and their blog around explaining feminism, around commenting on feminism for feminists and girls in their audience. So it's one thing that you give the platform to other feminists and you spread their feminists, and when you just support all of this, so that's one thing, and I think that's awesome. And the more we have of that, the better. But the reverse situation, so when you just get in these social approvals of in an audience that's already prepared by other activists, because you just stand out among other men. I think that's just wrong. And I'm dreaming that all the boys that have these explained feminist blogs would switch to other audiences, other guys, not girls, and not feminists. I wish they would deal with the toxic dudes and explain feminism from like the male standpoint, like talk about other like toxic masculinity and the boundaries that need to be respected, all of that sort of thing. And I would love for guys to like switch to things like that, for them to explain feminism to people who can't and won't listen to girl feminists. Girls will always listen to boys, and girls are just always happy. But guys, dudes, they're deaf. They are the ones they should reach out to. We've got Miratai. she wrote something like really awesome. She said that at some point she was disgusted by her own accounts in social networks because she was constantly pestered to repost something. She felt like her accounts didn't belong to her anymore, and then she didn't belong to herself anymore. So if you don't repost, people start to sort of blame you, and now I almost don't read anything, messages, and I'm not even a blogger, says Mira. Nico, precisely the same thing that I had to go through. I was starting to feel that I was used, like I was this loudspeaker for others, and then they don't care if I'm tired or if I can't. They don't care about me at all. Whatever the living circumstances I'm in, perhaps I'm sick, perhaps somebody in my family is sick. It doesn't matter. They just perceive me as this political tool. And then on top of that, when I try to say no to people, it's perceived as something like it gets a very negative reaction versus just ignoring the questions. I had these like scandals, like I got really harassed because I said no in the wrong way. I like didn't word my refusal properly, like to get involved in some activism. And there's so many toxic people out there. So. Well, yeah, I was going to say a couple of words on pro-feminism. This is a topic that I'm really up for. I was involved in a dialogue on whether we need male allies for pro-feminist support, and I do think that we do need like male pro-feminists. But being a pro-feminist, in my opinion, is not just supporting women in their struggle for equal rights. It should also imply compliance with a certain set of moral rules developed by femme activists. And it's critically important if you do want to talk about feminism, you have to talk about feminism with men, sexist men, and not women. Regardless of whether they're feminists or not, because when bloggers, men start to talk about feminism to the female audience, it's instantly inscribed into this vertical mansplaining system. When men start to tell women how they should fight for their rights from the height of the status. So if you're a man and you call yourself a pro-feminist, it's critically important to be fully focused on the male audience, like gender male audience, and direct your energy not towards discussing some basic points that feminism is about this or that. Either provide a platform for femme activists and like this is like a femme activist that talked about something really powerful in her videos, and always quote the sources that you get your information from, because unfortunately the majority of pro-feminist male bloggers are like taking their info from bloggers that start to talk about way before them, like femme activists. There's a lot of sexist content online. In fact, there's a lot of sexist comments, and I think that all of the power of the male pro-feminist movement should be aimed at targeting this sort of content, responding to sexist content, replying. I can see the femme activists doing that themselves all the time, and it does take a lot of energy. And I think this should be done by male pro-feminists, like working with toxic men and responding to their misogynic views. We have a couple of more comments that came in a bit earlier. Milia Lee wrote about pro-ban. What, Nika? Sorry? Femme and queer people are banned way more than white males, and other demonspheres and Instagram profiles of femme activisms are often deleted because it's mass complaints from haters. So there's no quality. the minorities get banned much more often. In TikTok, the distribution of videos for non-conventional looking people are banned, and I had to deal with something like this myself a year ago. I'd also like to mention a comment that came from Miratai on a boycott that we've discussed previously, like a strike. He said that boycotting is not just something that can work directly. It's not just people not posting the content. It's a good reputational way to threaten these companies. And an Insta Parliament is another suggestion coming from our commentators. And I guess we join towards the end of our talk tonight.
Сори, я загрузилась по поводу с неправильных местоимений и начала извиняться в чате сейчас.
Нормально, если дискуссия там продолжится, да?
It is okay, you can continue the discussion in the chat. Well, I wanted to second what Ola said about bans. And I think this is really a battle of people who fight for social justice with the other camp and with corporations, and this battle is absolutely uneven now. And even on TikTok, with its perfect feed, which adjusts to your DNA, you can feel like you're in a very friendly environment. And it may even seem that there are a lot of people around you who share your values, and that's really true. There are a lot of them. But if we talk about LGBT feminist movement, then this audience is much smaller than the bigger audience, which is intolerable, which discriminates others, which writes hate speech and which hates certain categories of people. On the other hand, I think that there have been cases in our history when small groups of people could show solidarity, unite, and influence something bigger. I believe that we can influence certain situations from media if we unite our efforts. And we have another question. What do you think about surrogate motherhood? So unexpected. Not great. I think this is still exploitation of the female body. Well, it's not really connected to the topic of our conference, so we can drop it. Well, I'm negative personally. I love these questions emerging in discussions like topics of prostitution, sex workers, which divides the feminist movement in a few camps because there are people with different experiences, different opinions. So I love it when you discuss one thing and then some question like this appears. I think we can reformulate it. Like, what do you think about bloggers? Well, we are bloggers. We are sitting here like we exist. So that's a weird question. Let's go back to our topic, the digital workers. Okay, if you have any final comments to make, you're welcome. Everybody is saying thank you in the comment section. If you have anything else to say, if you have anything else to add, if you feel like you need to add something, please do it, and we will wrap up. Now, there is one more question about interaction with journalists. How do you see your interaction with them, the perfect collaboration? Do you have any tracks that, yeah, I would like to answer this question. I really want journalists to be part of what we do. And what I would love to see, I think journalists have to have to realize that they are not some objective third party. Maybe they need to go deeper into what it means to provide a platform, what is ideology, for them to reflect on the fact that they also broadcast a certain ideology, even though they claim that they are objective. This is something that is non-existent when journalists take interviews with an activist or with a sexist and then bring a lot of support to the sexist, a lot more than for the feminist, because the sexist transmits opinions that are shared by the majority of people in the society. He is not marginal for the society. So what I lack is understanding of verticality and the understanding of ideology that is behind what we do. And I think that journalists are not too caring, I think, for activists. I mean, journalists do not really think how it influences our life, our safety. So in short, they're not attentive to our activity, to the fact that we are much more vulnerable than celebrities or some other people, or the fact that we don't have salaries. Most of us have quite low income, and we can't provide for our safety after we release certain content. But my favorite topic is being objective, being neutral, and sticking to the fact that there is no ideology behind journalism. So I want this to change. Thank you. Lola, do you want to comment on that? Well, I agree with everything that Nika said, and I also wanted to say that I want to see media uniting not only for their own kind, but also not only for journalists. So the example was Ivan Golunov. There was an explosion of solidarity among media. Everybody started to fight with state repressions, with terror. Sorry for this word, but I think it is terror, and these are repressions. And it worked. There was a huge wave that followed, because basically the power that media have and what was achieved, Ivan Golunov was saved. And I think it would be great if media were just as active about other problems, and this could solve a lot of injustices in the society. Well, it feels like we'll help media because we know that we need media, but media themselves do not understand that they also need us a lot, both as readers and as bloggers who support media, who bring you a lot of views, a lot of readers, who support your publications, repost your publications. Journalists very often write to me asking me to repost their materials, and I don't do the contrary. I don't write journalists asking them to, post my videos, for example. So this verticality, this lack of symmetry is something that I hate. Yeah, this is a media strike, which one could do. A strike that will call for reposts. Why not? Thank you very much for the first day of our conference. Thank you very much, Alice, Nika, Lola, Anna, and thank you very much for your moderation. And I will remind you that tomorrow we will start the second day of our conference, and we will discuss the production interests of different outsourcing platforms like Yandex, Delivery Club, Glovo, and others, and the strategies of improving the labor conditions. We will also talk about trade unions and their possibility, and anti-job will be thus. Anya it is from St. Petersburg, the Moscow Trade Union of Taxi Drivers, and Lesa from Kiev. Thanks a lot to Lilia Zemnichova, technology researcher, who posted her comments on YouTube, and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, she will keep working like that. And on the third day, on Sunday, we will discuss, we will talk to Alena Danilova, system architect Danila Ple, an artist and teacher of computer science, Unity and XR, Elena Gennadievna. We will discuss the production and the nature of digital content in CGI and web development. Thank you all very much once again. Thank you all very much for being part of the discussion. Thanks a lot for your comments. Thanks a lot for your activity in the chat. Thank you. Bye.